Um, let's talk about meditation while we're on the topic of spirituality. Uh, Talk about the nature of your personal practice. How did you come to it, and what does it mean to you?
Well, I came to it, I was 18, I think, when I sat my first meditation retreat. I'd come to it first through taking MDMA maybe 6 months before I sat my first retreat. I took MDMA. I had experimented with marijuana and maybe I had taken mushrooms a couple of times as a teenager, but I'd never done that in the context of thinking consciously about understanding anything about the nature of my mind. They just were fun party drugs that teenagers were using at the time. But with MDMA, I was given it with the explicit framing. You might really learn something about yourself if you take this, right? And so it was really with that intention. I mean, that was the setting of it. I was just sitting with my best friend, and we took this drug, which at that point, this would have been 85-ish, 86 maybe. And so it had just become illegal, but just recently. So I think it became Schedule 1 in 85. I have to look that up. But anyway, the MDMA at that point, otherwise known as ecstasy, now Molly, was being widely used in the therapeutic community as a tool of insight. And it sort of leaked out of that community and got into my hands at that point. And so I had an experience on the drug, which will be familiar to many people who have taken it, but maybe not if you've took it at a rave or a party or a rock concert. Or I mean, it's not. Again, I think one's intentions matter here. Um, but I had this experience of, for lack of a better phrase, unconditional love. Right? It was an experience of not feeling high or altered or stoned or it's certainly not a sense of my perception of the world being distorted. It was actually an experience of being sane for the first time in my life, and I just felt, okay, this is more real than what I've intended to experience. This feeling I'm feeling right now. This is not an artifact of pharmacology. This was a stripping away of features of my own mind, it's a holding them in abeyance for the period of the drug's action that were obscuring this state of being that should in principle always be available to me. Right? That's what I came away from it feeling like. I had this experience of 4 hours or so where I lost all of my self absorption, all of my self consciousness, all of my concern for what other people think of me. And I experienced just a perfect free attention to care, to both to care about others and to recognize that I do care about others, right? Effortlessly, that my default is to want others to be happy and to really want them to be happy. It's not just you're not just checking a box on an inventory of nice attitudes, but that my own happiness was bound up with theirs, right? And that was love, and that it was a feeling I felt not just for the best friend who was sitting across from me in our living room, but I would have felt it for a stranger had he showed up at that moment. It's just like that was my default. And so it was a way of being. It was not a transactional feeling of love. I love you because of our history together. I love you because of how much fun I have in your company. No, it was a feeling of love is the potentially the default state of consciousness in the presence of other beings struggling to be happy in this world. And it just went very, very deep. It was incredibly beautiful. It was, but most important, it was a a state of mind that on some level was totally foreign to me. It's not that I didn't love people. I love my mom. I love my friends. I loved, I'd had a girlfriend or two or three at some probably by that point. But this was just the depth of it and its unity with my feeling of my own being. I mean, just what like the core of my own subjectivity. It was a proper spiritual slash mystical experience, um, but from one from which I came down, and then having come down, I was left to wonder, okay, what do I do about this? And that's the first thing, or one of the first things one encounters when one faces that riddle is meditation in some form as a way of moving forward. Rather than taking, you can't just keep taking drugs again and again and again. I mean, that's not. I mean, some people attempt to do it that way, and obviously psychedelics are very much in vogue at the moment. But it was clear to me that if this was a a feature of the human mind, with or without drugs, and there was every reason to believe that's true because drugs don't cause the brain to do anything that the brain isn't capable of doing, right? It's not all they can do is mimic neurotransmitters or change the behavior of neurotransmitters in one form or another. So this is your brain in one of its states, and however it got there. And so I just became very interested in finding a path by which I could integrate that wisdom and that kind of feeling of well-being more and more into my life. And so then meditation became a major part of my life.